With both championships decided, you would be forgiven for thinking there's no reason to tune in to Formula One again this year. So what better circuit to stoke the fires of excitement of the F1 fans worldwide? Welcome back to the Grid Talk podcast. This is episode 337. And if you'd like to see or hear more from us, then why not go to your social feed and follow us at Grid Talk UK everywhere you can find the @ symbol. Today on Grid Talk, we are previewing the United States Grand Prix in Austin, Texas. And I'm your host, Tom Horrox. Today, I'm joined by Grid Talk hosts, George Howson.
Evening.
Owain Medford.
Hello.
And the Soft Tyre podcast host, Jonah Gould.
Good afternoon.
And before we get into the episode, we just must thank our sponsor again for today. BetOnline is your number one source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on all the action. Be sure to use our promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts. So I apologise, George, but because you were slightly late to our call today, I've given you AlphaTauri to start with. But it is welcome back to Daniel Ricciardo into the fold, and we wave goodbye to Liam Lawson for now, at least, anyway. Daniel loves this place. Can he kickstart his career in Austin? And will Yuki be thinking, I'd want Liam back, or is he going to be happy to have Daniel back?
I'm not so sure he'd be too happy to have Daniel back. And obviously, we know how good Ricciardo is. We know how successful he's been in the past. But in fairness, Lawson was beating him most of the time anyway. Qatar was one of the few races where Tsunoda actually beat Lawson in the same car, so I think it doesn't really matter which of those two is in the car. He's going to have a hard time, and I think both AlphaTauri drivers are going to have a hard time this weekend as well. They have looked better at times in recent races, but it was very much a dropping back down to earth for them in Qatar. And Kota as well is quite an all-round track. It tests all elements of the car, and unfortunately for AlphaTauri, I think they have the worst car on the grid. I think it's going to be a big ask for them to get points this weekend and try and claw up the order, because they have to more than double their current points tally to catch Haas in 9th. They're currently on 5. Haas in 9th are on 12, so they have to more than double that just to even catch the guys in 9th place. They're going to, with not many races left, they're going to really have to pick up points soon, and it's difficult to see where that's going to happen. But at least Ricciardo coming back means that we should get some good content around that, and you'll probably be going around with 10-gallon hat on and cowboy boots and all that sort of stuff. Some people might find it cringe, some people might find it entertaining, but it's definitely going to be eventful for him.
Yeah, he's certainly going to have the cameras on him, definitely, given it's his return as well. And you mentioned the Haas team there. They've got some big upgrades coming this week, and they've dropped to 9th in the standings, though, after another squandered weekend in Qatar. But this home team there, is it too late for them to chase down Alfa Romeo and Williams?
I think it is. I think it's too little too late. They say they've got upgrades coming. The thing that worries me here is that we've got 5 races left of the season. They're bringing upgrades. Is this... Hopefully they've transitioned to working on next year's car, because if they're still bringing upgrades now, I don't know, it's not looking good, and I question the efficacy of those upgrades. They are, as George says, over double the points tally of AlphaTauri, so they're definitely looking forwards. But the highest that they're ever going to place is to get past the Williams, and that will be a massive turnaround in form. And I really don't see that happening, to be honest with you. Obviously, it's their home race, so hopefully they can put in a good performance. But other than that, the only people they're fighting with are Alfa Romeo. Once they get past them again, you've got to try and make your way up to the Williams with the points you score, and I just don't see that happening with the form of the Williams in comparison to the Haas. I think it's going to be yet another bad weekend.
Yeah, we do have a sprint race this week, and the Haas does seem to look like it's a little bit better in sprint formats, with the exception of Qatar, obviously. But hopefully, for their sake, we'll see something from them at least with these upgrades to give the factory something to cheer about. But moving on to Alfa Romeo then, Joe, I know we've got fresh off the back of their highest points haul of the year, which was a lowly, was it a 10th place and an 8th place, or 9th place and an 8th place, sorry. It's their highest points all year, unexpected shot in the arm. They'd moved clear of Haas in the Constructors' Championship. So are they going to be looking behind at trying to hold onto that position, or will they be trying to look ahead to Williams and try and get something from these last 5 races?
I think realistically, they're only looking behind to hold on to it. I'm not going to say that Alfa Romeo lucked out, but there were a lot of track limits issues in Qatar that we were noticing, especially around turn 15, turn 6. We were seeing a lot of that. So I don't know if the stewards are going to be all over the place on track limits here in Austin, but I think they're looking backwards. They got to hold on to that position. They got to just secure the money that they're looking at in the constructors right now. I think looking forward to Williams is too far of a shot. You have a guy like Alex Albon who seems to be able to take a car that's pretty decent. I got to give Williams some credit. It's not a bad car, but he's definitely overperforming in it. And Logan Sargent's been underperforming in it. I think Alfa Romeo is just holding on to what they have, holding on to it and looking forward to next year's car, but also looking forward to taking this money that they're currently secured with and keeping that and not dropping any lower in the standings.
Yep, no, absolutely. It's nice to see them actually do something in the race and push forward. So hopefully we can get some good battles in the midfield towards the end of the season. But you mentioned Williams there again, just being a little bit up the road there, but 3 pointless Grand Prix in a row now, although it did manage to get a couple of points in the sprint, George, and last time out. Is the recent form concerning for Williams, or do you feel they've done enough and they're just cruising to the end of the year and focusing on next year?
I think they were probably hoping they were cruising towards the end of the year before Alfa Romeo scored 6 points at the last Grand Prix. I think now they might be a little bit nervous after that. But to saying that, I think we covered it in the Qatar review as well. It was a very unique track in Qatar and also very unique circumstances with the weather too. That track apparently really suited the Alfa Romeo. I don't expect that to be happening again this weekend at Kota, where it's a all-round track. I also don't think that particularly helped Williams either. They'll be very quick down the long straights, of course, but that first section in particular, I think that car is going to lose so much time compared to the competitors because aerodynamics is not its strong suit, absolutely. Some might think that Logan Sargent will do a better job this weekend. Not really counting last time, obviously, because unfortunately he wasn't well and he had to retire. And we had so many problems with the heat, obviously, in that race, and we're not going to go into that. I did go into that on a short video on our socials, which if it's not out already, it will be soon. There's not going to be a repeat of that this time. Maybe it being a home race will help him get a shot in the arm, but I believe in his actual home race in Miami, he was dead last. So there's not really a lot to hope for there, unfortunately, for Sargent. Albon, with a tide strategy, perhaps could get into the top 10. It's a big ask for him, of course, but it is meant to be very hot in Texas this weekend coming up. I think low 30s Celsius, about 90 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's going to be hot by anybody's standards this weekend. That could play into their favour, but we'll see.
Okay, so it looks like we've finally seen the end of the rain at every Grand Prix that we've been having in the last few months. Back to the summer weather for the drivers till the end of the year at least. But the summer is definitely behind them for Alpine, who now require, and I love a good bit of maths equations and the mathematical possibilities here, and seeing that they now need maximum points from every race if they want to try and overhaul McLaren and Aston Martin. Obviously, that's not going to happen, Owain. What are Alpine looking to get out of this weekend? The drivers, at least, have got a good battle going on, only separated by a couple of points.
It's sponsor time, isn't it? That's really what they can get. It's a nice position almost for them to be in, and they can probably switch off a little bit. There's no way they go backwards from here, I would say. Obviously, they could still royally mess it up. Even with 10 points for Williams every single race until the end of the season, there's no way that they can be caught, really. So I don't want to sound defeatist. There's a pragmatism there in that you can sit there and go, we've got 90 points. We're sitting in sixth place. As you say, it is functionally impossible or practically impossible to overhaul the points deficit to McLaren and Aston Martin, which is a nice place to be. You can think at that point we can focus on next year's car and treat this one like a test session. And as I say, try and get some sponsor eyes on LP in the United States. I think that's pretty much how you've got to view it. Maybe I'm not built for a Formula One team because they would be saying we've got to go and try and win every race. If you can pick up some glory from some kind of, we could get freak weather and have a downpour during qualifying or something like that, which we've seen in Texas before. But apart from that, I don't think there's much they can do beyond to try and have fun, enjoy themselves.
Yeah, certainly hasn't been a 5-star season from them this year. It's just gone from bad to worse as the season's gone on. But one podcast that is a 5-star podcast is, of course, the Grid Talk podcast. And if you are enjoying this podcast, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star rating on Spotify and on Apple iTunes, Apple Podcasts, whatever it's called these days as well. Show my age there. And if you're one of those listeners who is not subscribed to this channel, why not subscribe now and ensure you never miss a show again? Don't forget to click the bell to know when we go live, and say we've got over 2,000 subscribers at YouTube, and we'd love to add to that number. So please, if you like what we do, share us with a friend, and then we can continue to grow with you. But looking up a little bit further up the grid now, Jonah, we've got McLaren, and they scored more points than any other team over this spell of the season. It seems they are destined to pass Aston Martin, but with a 16-point swing needed to catch Ferrari. Is that possible, or is that dreamland stuff?
As a fan, it's possible. In reality, I think it's a little bit closer to dreamland stuff to catch Ferrari. Aston Martin, to be honest, is basically inevitable. We've seen my homeboy Lance Stroll underperforming every week, which is just great for the country. But I think McLaren, they're doing really well. The upgrades on the car are working to the fullest extent, and heading to a track like Coda, where we know already that Coda's going to suit the McLaren. If Silverstone suited the McLaren, Coda's going to suit the McLaren. I find that it'll be very similar. They're both really all-around tracks, like George mentioned. And I think this is going to be a good weekend for those two guys. I think the struggle for McLaren now comes with you have a really good car, one on some days that is second fastest on the grid, one on some days that even is a little bit quicker than the Red Bull, as we saw in the sprint in Qatar. The problem for McLaren now is, okay, you have a really good car and you have two really good drivers. It's now time to keep those drivers in check and not let things get out of hand, like we've seen a little bit of Mercedes back in when they had a really good car and two really good drivers. It's time to make sure everybody just gets to the finish line, look at the common goal. It's not about beating each other. It's about beating Aston Martin. It's about trying to beat Ferrari. That's the goal here. It's not about who's going to finish ahead of the other. That's McLaren's struggle for the next little bit. But I think beating Aston Martin's inevitable. Ferrari, I'd love to see it happen. I'm hoping Ferrari's spell of underperformance continues, but that's the fan in me that wants to see that happen.
Yeah, that's very much the fan in me wanting that to happen as well. But considering that a few races ago, I was saying I would love for them to pass Aston Martin, but I just don't think it's going to happen. I think they're too far away. It's now, like you say, it's inevitable, just 11 points behind now. So that looks like it's a done deal. So we'll look forward to we'll watch that play out and watch that with interest. But we are now going to talk about Aston Martin, George, and never has a team been so transformed over a winter and then had such a fall from grace in the second half of the season. Staring at fifth in the championship, rumours of Stroll selling, Honda looking like they're struggling to scale back up to F1 in 2026. What's going on at Aston, and is it going to continue this weekend?
Nothing good's going on at Aston at the moment, unfortunately. Like you said, we've said it a lot on the show. To have a team that looked so good at the start of the season and now it's so off it, it's unbelievable. It's almost a surprise when Alonso gets decent points. That's how bad it is. And obviously there's no hope for Stroll in terms of that. I've spoken a lot about him, of course. Not in very good terms either. I think it's just going to continue this weekend most likely. Alonso's probably going to get like a 7th or an 8th or something. Like you guys were speaking about before, McLaren, they're probably going to get a podium or high points, and they're probably going to overtake Aston Martin. But this weekend, they need a miracle, really, or the McLarens to retire to hold on to that 4th place. I can't see it. There's just too much of the season left for them to hold on. I don't see them really doing anything. Alonso's going to do his best. Alonso might make a mistake or two because he's overdriving the car, and Lance Stroll's probably going to be out in Q1 and just do nothing. That's most likely what's going to happen for the green machines this weekend.
Oh dear. I had the green flavoured Red Bull the other day just to see what it was like, and it was much like their season. It started off quite nice, but then ended quite disappointingly. That's my review of the green Red Bull drink. But moving on then to Ferrari then, Owain, and although they've, as Jonah alluded to, they have been underachieving, they have actually been catching Mercedes, and only 6 points per race needed to overturn their second place, which just seems a little bit crazy given how Ferrari have been performing and how well Mercedes have been doing. Has this battle suddenly got hot again? And how do you see Ferrari shaping up at Austin this weekend?
If they can fix their reliability problem where, and actually start some races, they can be doing quite well. After a mid-season lull, like you said, they've had a big uptick in form post-Monza, particularly. Got that race win and really, I think crept up. And it's really now just a matter of time. Another retirement for Mercedes and it blows wide open. I think Ferrari seem to be slightly better operationally than they have seemed in the past. It should be a decent track for them as well, with the sort of nature of it. They did relatively well in Japan, which is somewhat similar in nature, I would say. And I think I think that they've maybe got to the bottom of what the culture problem was, and they've got better for it. As you say, it's a close enough points difference that they really could make inroads. But I'd like to see what happens this weekend before I start predicting anything. I think Mercedes do know how to get the job done by comparison, and they will eke out that second place in whatever way they need to. And I just don't see Ferrari able to do that really in some ways.
Oh, sorry, having issues myself. Yeah, that's fair. Mercedes they seem to be the better operationally, but certainly they just need to keep the drivers away from each other, to be honest. So yeah, we are moving on to Mercedes now, and so going to you, Jonah. Self-destruction is not really a phrase that we associate with Brackley very often, but they've definitely not maximised in the last couple of races, and they really need some luck in these last 5 races. Can you see them grabbing a win this weekend potentially, or is that going to be a bit too far?
I'll be honest. If my uncle's listening, ignore this because he's a huge Mercedes fan. No, they're not going to win. It's not going to happen. Mercedes' number one goal this weekend is don't hit each other. I think it's just get as many points as possible. Try not to hit each other. George needs to not calm down on his driving style, but I think calm down a little bit. And this might get under the skin of some Mercedes fans, but I'm not a huge fan of George's behavior in the car recently. I think he needs to take a bit of a calm down there. Now, it was justified in Qatar. I'll give him that. Lewis completely turned in on him. It was justified. But Mercedes' goal this weekend is to just not hit each other. Stay out of each other's way. Maximize the points. It's a matter of time. The car is improving. Hold on to that second place. You have Ferrari breathing up your neck now, like Owain said, after Monza and after Singapore. You got them inching ever closer. We don't need Spain 2016. We don't need to see that. As great as it would be to watch, it's just not necessary for their championship hopes. It's just a matter of keeping each other out of each other this weekend. Don't hit each other. Don't break the cars. Don't destroy it. It's a pretty decent car. It's holding on to second place in the championship. Keep it there.
Yeah, I think it'll be a decent weekend for them. But yeah, the ultimate pace there potentially not to be pushing anywhere near the Red Bulls. But moving on to the Red Bulls then, George, they're champions again. They've scored more points than Mercedes and Ferrari combined, which is just astonishing. The tracks should suit them this weekend. I think every other track seems to suit them. Is there any stopping Max? And can Checo recover from his second home race? Because we all know Mexico is in North America.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely not in South America. Big difference. Don't get it mixed up. But yeah,
very close.
Yeah, it's a couple thousand miles or so. But yeah, what kind of absolute idiot would not Sergio Perez to win a race this season? Like with the way he's been going, it's been, oh my god, hindsight's a wonderful thing. It absolutely is. I don't know. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of Mexican fans there at the race this weekend. Whether that's going to be enough to help him, I don't know. Remember, he serves didn't do particularly well around this track. Same with his home race as well. I know he got a podium there last year, but it's not really saying that much for the cars that he's had over the years. So we'll have to see how he gets on. But the problem is, it's not necessarily that Sergio Perez isn't doing very well, because he's not doing very well. Let's make that absolutely clear. But just Max Verstappen doing so damn well. Like, the guy is unbelievable. His results are something else. And also the reliability of that Red Bull car as well. It's not had a single mechanical failure for him all season, I don't believe. It's just something else. It is a very all-round track. Any circuit's going to suit that Red Bull car pretty much. It's very rare that one isn't. It took an exceptional set of circumstances in Singapore for him not to win there. And even then, at times, they did look the fastest car on the grid. We'll have to see how they get on. Max is probably going to win again. He's probably going to break some record with that. They just look untouchable, really. I don't see Perez doing particularly well around here in the Grand Prix anyway. But we'll get onto our result predictions for the whole weekend very soon, I'm sure.
Yes, we'll get right onto them now then with that. And yeah, it's Red Bull looking unstoppable. But it would be nice, wouldn't it, if Max Verstappen did a Lewis Hamilton circa 2015, where he just phoned it in for the last 5 races and allowed someone else to get some race wins and championship points. And I'm definitely here for that. We've got some banging races coming up, and I don't think they're going to be dead rubbers. I think we're going to have some decent racing. I don't think Red Bull aren't going to fall off the pace, but they are definitely not going to be bringing any upgrades now for the rest of the season. Let's see what everyone else can do about that. But we'll come to you, Owain, then for your predictions then. Give us a pole position, your podium, and give us a bold prediction as well. Sorry, mate.
4 years. 4 years we've been doing this. And I still forget how to do that. Actually, I think it's 5 now we've been doing it. We were ahead of the curve on the whole Zoom thing. I'm going to go right out on a limb and go with Hamilton to get the pole. Only the pole. And then I'm going to go for Verstappen to get the win, though. Hamilton to get second and Leclerc to get third. Do you reckon I've covered my bold prediction already?
That's pretty bold. Yeah. Sorry, go on.
You know what? I'll go with Williams to get a double top 10.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's impressive. Yeah,
so I'm just going to come back flying. That's what's going to happen.
Okay, Jonah, your predictions then? Pole, podium, and a bold.
Yeah, I think the biggest crime that Owain just did was not putting a single McLaren anywhere in the top 3 conversation. That's wild.
It didn't go unnoticed.
My bold predictions, pole position, I'm going to say Oscar Piastri snags pole. Not the fanboy in me, but he's just actually done it before. The podium, I think it's going to be realistic. I think it's going to be Max. It's going to be Oscar, and then maybe one of the Ferraris like Carlos. I think it's going to be Carlos over Charles. And then bold prediction, I think Lando's going to win.
Ooh.
He finally gets it. Finally happens.
So yeah, there's definitely some goodness in that, and I'm pretty sure all of my predictions have been said over the last 2 predictions. So George, let's hear your prediction. See if you can lock off my last one.
I doubt that, but we'll see. So my top 3 predictions after what I just said, yes, I'm going to go for Max Verstappen to win the race. Second, I'm going to agree with Jonah. I'm going to go with Oscar Piastri to get second place. I think he's really going to kick on after an amazing weekend in Qatar where he got a win, but it's sort of a win, but it's not a win. But he's still going to win a race. So it's a win. It's a win. I'm counting it. It's not a Grand Prix win. That's the difference. And third, Mercedes have gone well here in the past. I'm tempted to put a Ferrari, but I'll go in my head and say Mercedes. I'll put Hamilton after a pretty dismal, well, not even one corner in Qatar in the race. I'm going to back him to get a podium there. And my bold prediction is Sergio Perez with the sprint win. I'm doing it again. I'm doing it again. He's got to come in clutch eventually. I have to try and win this bet, so I need to manifest it. I need to believe it. And hope and pray that it happens.
Yeah, that's for the sake of the viewers. I hope that doesn't happen, but we will wait and see. So my predictions then will be a pole position for Max Verstappen, because why not? But I think it's going to be. I've gone with Jonah and saying Lando Norris getting his first win, Lewis Hamilton on the podium in second with Piastri in third, and I think I'm gonna change my bold prediction slightly. I'm gonna go with Max Verstappen. Just has a really generally bad weekend, both sprint and in the race. Makes mistakes, just seems a little bit off the boil, and as a result, doesn't get any points for the entire weekend. That's going to be my bold prediction, which I think is very bold. Max Verstappen 0 points in either race. But if you've enjoyed that, then please don't forget to follow us on our socials, which is at Grid Talk UK. And we'll just have our hosts here a chance to promote themselves here. So, Jonah, we'll start with you being the Soft Tire Podcast. Where can people find it? And tell us a little bit about it.
Well, Soft Tire Podcast, you can find it on anywhere you get your podcasts, whether that's Spotify, Apple Music, Pandora, Google, anywhere you can find it on your phone. And it's just 3 Canadian guys who spend about 10 and a half minutes talking about Formula One and then about 45 minutes talking about anything else. As a little bit of a preview, I mentioned it last week, but when we had George on the podcast, we actually rated which Mario Kart track we'd like to see added to the F1 calendar. If that gives you any idea of what the Soft Tire is, that's about it.
Love it. Okay, do you want to do some Grid Talk promotion for us?
Yeah, we have a sister show named Formula Talk, and that talks about pretty much everything else.
Does it talk about Mario Kart?
No, it doesn't talk about Mario Kart, unfortunately. For the record, it's Nintendo 64 Rainbow Road. That's what I want to see on.
That was on the list. That was on
I was going to say, yeah. In space, too. In space.
Yeah, with no rims either, no guardrails, no nothing.
No, just...
Love to see Paris's track limits on that track.
I was going to say, the ultimate track limits.
Sorry, Owain, carry on.
Yeah, so Formula Talk is our show that mainly concerns itself with the feeder series, and I believe sometimes Indy Next and IndyCar and things like that. And that is hosted by the very lovely Sophia Richmond and Tom Downey. You can find that wherever you find Grid Talk.
Don't know why you didn't describe Tom Downey as lovely there, but
I think you're biased.
Okay, and George, is there anything else you want to plug from a Grid Talk perspective, or anything else?
I'll let you take the Grid Talk stuff, Tom. But I'll just give a mention to my football website, footballchronicle.com. That's football spelled the Spanish way, FUTBOL. I do a weekly opinion piece on all things football, and there's been some interesting stories, some very nasty stories in the world of football in the last few months. If you want to read my take on some of them, you can head over to there.
You're saying, George, that football is not regarding the NFL. That's regarding the other one.
It's regarding association football. I refuse to use the S word.
They're all football at the end of the day. Currently, I'm watching rugby football.
Yeah, rugby rules football, yeah.
Not the Minnesota Vikings, none of that stuff. It's no American.
He doesn't know who they are.
I've heard of them. Yeah, no, this is going back to Sheffield rules football from 1858. What sport?
Wow.
The official proper sports. So yeah, check that out, please.
And if you want to check out a little bit more of George as well, you can see him on the socials. He's often the face behind all our lovely shorts that come up as well. So go to our YouTube shorts and have a look at those. They're always good for a hot take or two. If you want to hear more from the Grid Talk, obviously, then all our race shows do go out live on YouTube straight after the events, and our audio versions do go out slightly later, which is available on Amazon Fire, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Music, Verbal, and Pocket Casts. Just search for Formula One Grid Talk for all our back catalogue of shows, including previews, reactions, and qualifying and race reviews as well. We do also run a Patreon as well, so if you want to help us continue to do what we do, then please consider donating to us, and everything does go back into the show to improve your experience as the listener. We will be back this weekend to bring you the qualifying review for the United States Grand Prix, one of them in Austin. So thank you very much for listening to the Grid Talk podcast presented by Bet Online. And goodbye.